Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. I've seen a number of narrative-driven stories over the past year that focus on the story over gameplay. Games like Firewatch and Cradle are prime examples of what to expect in these type of games when they get it right. With fantastic scores that are capable of evoking thought and emotion, those games were fantastic experiences that were well worth the time it took to complete them. More often than not, leaving the player wishing there was more. And then here we have Breached. Now, Breached is a text-based, yes, I said text-based, narrative experience where your character is the survivor of some form of crash or whatever, and he's awoken from cryogenic sleep. And apparently life support is damaged, and you have 8 days of life support, in which case you have 2 simple tasks: repair the life support and refuel your ship. And before we go into the game itself, let's, of course, take a look at the options menu. And here we are with the options menu. We have controls, which are mouse sensitivity, enable keyboard, we recommend using a mouse, and invert y-axis. Now, why would you ask that this controls are limited to this? Well, because the game is controlled pretty much entirely with your mouse. You can use the WASD keys as well, however, that functionality doesn't really work as well as you might think, and the mouse is actually the best way to go about it. So rather simple controls for a rather simple game. We also have the sound, the music volume, and the sound effects. We have resolution. We have all the standard resolutions from 800 by 600 all the way up to 4K. Window, full screen window or full screen. Overall quality, low, medium, higher, ultra. And it's a little counterintuitive there, but you do have to select an option to be able to customize your different options and menus. You have VSync, motion blur aberrations, textures, view distance effects, shadows, anti-aliasing, no idea what kind, post-processing, no idea what kind, and resolution scale. So all in all, a very basic options menu, but effective enough. It's got more options in there than you would typically see for a game that is sub $10. So I do give them props for that. However, if you're going to go and deal with a full options menu, I would like to see a little bit more information being displayed, like what kind of anti-aliasing you're using, post-processing, resolution scale. Also, anti-aliasing, low, medium, or high. Really, come on. And so, yeah, that's basically all we have with the options menu there. And here we have Breached. Now, Breached consists of essentially 3 main components. You have the journal, which is where the story is related to you through text-based personal logs. You have the lab, where you crack into pods for repair components that have been collected or synthesize fuel from the 3 types of minerals. And then you have the actual gameplay itself, where you remotely navigate probes to gather minerals in pods while trying to avoid magnetic anomalies that will lose you your resources, the probe, and potentially the game. Now, this was a somewhat interesting premise at first, and I have to admit I found myself somewhat intrigued for about the first 5 minutes. And after that, the lack of any meaningful story outside of a smattering of text logs grew exceptionally boring, and the gameplay itself lacks any meaningful style or content. Offering no obstacles to overcome outside of the ticking timer that is the 8 days you have in the magnetic anomalies, the game has really nothing to offer except a pretty landscape. There aren't even any meaningful puzzles outside figuring out the optimum mixture of minerals for your fuel. Now, the graphics themselves are quite good, much better than I was expecting for a game that was sub $10. However, there is an unfortunate rule with games of this type. The graphics only look good at a distance and at high speed. Once you stop and look closer, you can see the graphics are a lot more basic than you would at first notice. Of course, that's not entirely a bad thing, as you will be spending the majority of your time moving around as fast as possible. However, the graphics and everything in relation to this game does actually make it feel a little bit like a tech demo, and not really a game itself. It feels like someone threw something together to make it come up with a semblance of a game, but didn't actually quite finish it. Now, clocking in at a steady 60 FPS, the game maintains its frame rate quite well and does seem very stable. However, the smooth frame rate does little to help with the game itself. Even though it does have mechanics in place to promote multiple playthroughs, the game is simply so dull and uninspired that honestly, why would you want to? The text-based methods of storytelling and the lack of an actual in-depth story does little for the game to keep you entertained. Now, I honestly felt that if this game had voice acting, or hell, even go on with full-on vlog style for relating the story, I really feel it would help keep the player interested so much more, and you definitely feel the absence of any meaningful way and method of relating the storyline to you, which is a shame. Clocking in at around 2 hours per playthrough, the game offers little to nothing by way of story or value for replayability. So to sum up, guys, this is another game that shows promise and potential, but unfortunately it fell flat on its face. Good graphics prop up a game of exceptional boredom and lack of depth that are underscored by the lack of diversity in the gameplay, lack of meaningful story, which is a sin in itself for a narrative-based game, and one that they actually seem kind of proud of the story, and I don't even fully understand why. And it also, the exceptionally basic gameplay mechanics make for one giant snooze fest. Now, my advice, give this one a pass. It's not horrible, just exceptionally bland. So, this has been a look at the new King of Blandness, Breached. It is available on Steam for $7 or your original equivalent. And thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Once again, I am SidAlpha, and I will see you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to use those like and dislike buttons down at the bottom in order to express either a job well done or your extreme displeasure, whichever the case may be. And if you're so inclined to hit that like button, please do exercise your right as a gamer of quality and taste to click the subscribe and share buttons. Also, I do have links for my Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon accounts if you're so inclined to support my channel even further down in the descriptions down below. The Patreon subscriptions do come with rewards and prizes, so please don't forget to give that a look at least. More reviews are on your panel to the left, and discussions and PC gaming news updates are usually in the panel to the right. Please feel free to keep watching, and thank you again for watching my channel.